Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. President Theodore Roosevelt, 32nd President of the United States of America, once said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." And how true are those words? Fear is not something that should be keeping us from reaching our goals. It is something that keeps us from public speaking. You see, fear is not something that you can physically touch. It's not something that you can smell. It's not something that you can see. You may think you can, but you can't. What is actually going on is a process in the brain that causes a physiological reaction in your body. My plan tonight is to show you what happens when your brain receives a perceived threat, the process it goes through, and why your body reacts the way it does. Fear ends up, perceived threat, when you receive that information, it goes to what's called the sensory cortex. And the sensory cortex sends that information down. All it is receiving data, sends the information down into the lower parts of the brain. Now you'll see on the screen there's about 3 or 4 different parts in the lower brain that deal with that emotion of fear, with anxiety. When it reaches the hippocampus, that last one, that's the one that decides whether you're going to face your fear, whether you're going to flee from that fear, or whether you're going to freeze to that fear. What happens to your body? I told you that something else happens, a physiological change in your body. Well, there is a change. Your heart begins to beat very quickly. Your breathing begins to intensify, it goes very quickly. You begin to sweat. Your muscles tense up. And sometimes you get those butterflies. Now here's the interesting thing. Did you ask for your body to react the way it did? This is the abstract concept. Your brain, through this process, has made a change in your body to fight the fear. You do all these things in anticipation of what you have to do to protect yourself. Think about the emotion when you find something funny. You laugh. Now here's the interesting part of this. The thing that you heard that was funny is processed the same way as the emotion of fear. If you think about it, when you hear something funny, it goes all through that sensory cortex, down into the other parts, and then you let out this noise out of your mouth. Did you ask yourself to do that? No. It happened though. Crying. You heard something sad. You maybe saw something sad. Tears begin to well up in your eyes, rolling down your cheeks. You may begin to sob, and maybe uncontrollably. Did you ask your body to do that? Not for a second. This is called an autonomous response. In other words, it happens automatically. You don't have any control, and that's what makes the brain a wonderful thing. It causes you to do things in reaction to different emotions. The thing about fear is that the brain, in that process, it perceives a threat. It doesn't have to be true. It can be a false threat. It's what the brain perceives. There could be a number of things in the present and the future that the brain is thinking about in this perceived threat. And it could be anything that is a threat to the body. It could be the life of the body, security, health, your status in life, your wealth, anything that the brain believes is valuable, and there's a perceived threat, it's going to protect you. It causes this physiological change. There are two categories of fear. One is called the rational fear, an appropriate fear. And for example, you wouldn't stand out in the middle of the road with cars whizzing by both ways, because chances are you're going to get hit. So you would fear going out onto a roadway that's busy. That's rational. If the fear is irrational or inappropriate, it's called a phobia. Take, for example, the elevator. You get onto an elevator, most people aren't afraid of elevators. They're not afraid of enclosed spaces. They're not afraid of a lot of people in a confined space. But there are people out there that can't handle that. They call that claustrophobia. It's a fear of confined spaces. If you think about spiders, most spiders we encounter, small, even if they are large if you're out in the country, most of them won't bother you. As a matter of fact, some will be on your hand and they won't bite you at all. But some people absolutely run away. They can't handle the idea of spiders. That is called arachnophobia. That is another phobia. It's irrational to think that all spiders are going to be a problem, but a lot of people can't deal with that. When I was in grade 10 in high school, I wrote a parody of a movie. Now, parody is a comical story in relation to something that I've seen, and that was the movie The Godfather. And the story I wrote was called Mamma Mia, Papa Pia, and Baby's Got the Pizzeria. Well, the English teacher thought it was so funny, this 6-page story, that he said, "Pat, please read it to the rest of the class." Well, what did I do? My heart began to beat terribly. I began to sweat. I began to tremble. My voice trembled. I began to hyperventilate. I was ready to pass out. I turned that was through just the first half page. I gave it back to the teacher and I said, "I'm sorry, I can't finish this. Have somebody else read it." And somebody else did read it. But I knew the whole class knew I was nervous. And I was absolutely embarrassed. This is where Toastmasters would have worked. And I'll tell you why I bring this up. Even though I would have been too young for Toastmasters at the age of about 16. Toastmasters is like a 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Here's why. It has a 10-step program called the Competent Communicator Manual. It teaches you about speaking, getting rid of some of those fears, or controlling those fears. You have your Competent Communicator Manual, which is a 10-step program, and you have your advanced manuals, which are a 5-step program. It helps you to control that fear, understand the process your brain is going through, but you're able to deal with that fear. You're all much better speakers as a result of being involved in Toastmasters. Remember what I said at the beginning. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. If you're able to control your fear, face your fears, you'll be able to reach many of your goals, including public speaking. I wish to close with a quote from Nelson Mandela. He said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Madam Toastmaster.